Now you're very welcome to What Matters programme with John Prendergast on this very rainy day. I'm actually sitting in the lap of luxury here in Kappa in County Limerick, and I have white vine, red wine, and vines of white wine right above me, or coming down on my head, and I love
I'm
it.
afraid you're driving home, John. That's my.
No, I'll have to secretly take it under the car.
Even underneath them.
But we also have a beautiful behind me here, Yorkshire Canary, absolutely gorgeous, a golden green, beautiful bird. And then our favourite mascot, everyone loves her, Lotta. Ah, lovely. Now, you mentioned a very important point there.
I did.
In your home, in the Vaughans Hotel, that's where your family got to know Eamon De Valera and Michael Collins.
It was the headquarters of the.
That's right, yes.
Coming on the Feeney.
Yes.
And we used to rent a room from Mrs. Vaughan.
Right.
For that, and to get them together. And we bought it then on the 14th of December 1918. That 1918 32 county
election, yes.
I keep on going on about that. That's where it came out of.
Okay.
And the finance to put up with it, that election, and that was very important. That's my granduncle James.
James
and he
Maguire.
ran. If you ever go to London, go down to Maguire Street and Maguire's Wharf.
Yes.
We traded with the Roman Empire down there, and right up to present times. That our wharf is down just from Tower Bridge. We were on Old London Bridge in 1200s. Salt was our big thing, and that's why Connacht Maguire is buried in the habit of the Franciscans.
Yes.
Because it was the old Celtic Christianity I keep talking about.
You do. You mentioned that
they
in the speaking.
were the ones
yes.
how to preserve food.
Yeah, with salt, yes.
And how to grow crops and animals and improve things for the welfare of mankind.
Fantastic.
But that's James, and he was educated in London. With his sisters and that for the business in London. And that was a huge business in London.
It must have been massive.
We traded with America, Spain, and all over the place, all over the world. And that's where they got the money. When Connacht Maguire, my ancestor that owned from Manilockhern and the River Shannon, that's why we're in Limerick. He
came down the Shannon, yes.
Had to have, that's the pale, we'll say, from Dublin, right, the east coast, right to the Shannon.
Yes.
So they had to conquer that and then set up all those landlords' estates to grow the food for the crown forces and because if you didn't in those days, if you had no food for them, you didn't have an army.
No.
And they wanted the strongest army in the world, and they did.
But it certainly proved
and we were sacrificed
on the back of the slavery. Yes.
That's my great grandfather.
Right. Now, what year would that go back to then? Probably the 1800s, is it?
Got a number on that. London and Martin. That's the old Martin.
That's the old Martin. Yes.
And he would have been very big into salt and all
yes.
that, you know, in those things. And then we come to Tom. Where is Tom? This is Tom. This is the man that coordinated everything from Vaughan's Hotel.
Oh yes, yeah. You had a photograph of him there.
That's James. Where's that video?
But
he might be in here.
Was Tom a connection?
There he is. That's Tom.
Tom.
Tom Maguire,
Tom Maguire,
London, USA, seafaring, trade, commerce, business. Well, the Spanish Empire, because we're related to the Duke of Alba, and that's how we got down in the flight of the Earls. But Tom, he was a brilliant mind. He went to Clongoweswood College, whereas James was educated in London, and he and my grandfather Willie, they were educated in Clongowoods in Kildare as well. But he learned banking in South Africa. He would have known all the top people. He's a brilliant man. The conversation we had, he would remember. He could recall it.
Yes.
What you said to him, he'd come in here. Oh, you moved that plant. If you came in here 5 years ago, or you moved that cake, or
incredible mind.
He was brilliant. But anyway, he was the one who coordinated all that, and that's what's so important for that election.
Yes.
Because he was still alive, and his wife Gwendolyn, she ran the hotel, and he coordinated the Vaughan's Hotel, the War of Independence.
So that was the connection.
And of course they had all this in London. and we had all the livery stables of London supplying them with oats. So we could send a message up to Scotland. We could send a message all over with those drivers. You know, that for 2 days you could go to the north of Scotland, and I mean we fed all the oats in London at that time. The contracts we had was known as Maguire's Oats. It was that important.
My God.
And they brought in all those ships from all over. We grew oats in Cuba, and we used to get, we're the first company ever to get 2 crops a year. The first one was cost, but the second one was complete profit. And we brought in all that American oats from America and Canada.
God bless us.
You know, and all that. But anyway, I want to give you a background
Marvellous traders.
of where the money, and when Cumconnick War was poisoned by the British in Genoa, because I went to his grave, you know.
You did, that's right.
The Flight of the Earls and that, and it was huge down there. And that's how we know Christopher Columbus, because he was from the same, and they taught them, Christopher Columbus, all about what happened in Askeat, which we've done. And
incredible.
And Lochgar, and how to latitude and longitude and all that. And we're going to do more on that, as you know. But I'm going to give you a background into it. But they had the money, and they put away a fund, and that fund was up to what they put up for the minute Britain
they bought the hotel.
The election on the 14th of December 1918. They bought Vaughan's Hotel
straight
for
away.
that.
Yes.
And I told you we used to rent a room for Mrs. Vaughan for all those people, and they put up that money for.
And that's where you got to know your ancestors, Michael Collins, Eamon de Valera. That was
De Valera in our mills in Croom.
Yes.
His uncle Col, the Pa Col worked there, and De Valera used to be hunting. There was a farm over there. I don't know whether the farm was McGarry's or ours. They had one in Croom, McGarry's. Yeah. And De Valera used to be hunting. They used to be hunting the cattle, young fellow hunting the cattle. That's how well we knew De Valera. Sure, his daughter used to come and stay in Willowbank. I knew, and she was a wonderful botanist, you know, did all that skeet and all the flowers and everything there. But it's important to know the background.
Absolutely, I agree.
He was the one. He and his wife Gwen. I have a photograph of Gwen there too. They were poisoned because they couldn't implement the Free State provisional government that they wanted to. The treaty couldn't be, because they wouldn't allow it.
Yes.
And that was the big thing.
Yeah.
And he was alive at that time. He died, I think, off the top of my head now, the 5th of July 1925.
He died.
So all those dates for all those great people can fit in. There's a very important one.
It is. I was just looking at that earlier on.
I told you that during the war, the Vatican was in terrible trouble. They were all at war with one another.
Yes.
And they wanted to try and get the place working. But Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, he was a genius, that man. And he went to Mungard College, that's how we knew him. And he was a great friend of ours. And he was an IRB man. And he talked to the IRB. And we were an independent sovereign government. And we weren't involved with any war or anything else.
Yes.
And the Vatican, and that's where our ambassador in the Vatican comes from. We have 2 ambassadors. We have one in Rome, but we also have one in the Vatican.
In the Vatican, yes.
And my father was invited at one stage by Clan Gale, I think, was it one of those, I've forgotten which one, to be the ambassador in Rome, but he couldn't do it. But anyway, 1950, and there it is there for you on your thing.
My God.
Mr. and Mrs. Martin Maguire, President of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Martin Maguire was invited to Rome in 1950 by Pope Pius XII. There you are. And there's his 2. My mother even was allowed to sit in. My mother, of course, would have been one of the old dissenters. You know,
yes, of course. Yes.
But anyway, she did all her best to do. But anyway, that was the peace record, and that's when Pope Pius XII sent over the papal nuncio to St. Patrick's, that I was anointed as the sovereign.
Yes.
To keep that alive up to this, that all truth would come out. And I think it was right too.
It was right. Totally correct.
72 years I'm doing it. Never got any place, only got placarded by everybody, especially the politicians. But that's where that comes from. And I think that's important.
It is.
Now,
yes.
And I want to show you. I want you to show this. I want you to Michael Collins said that articles of agreement are signed on December the 6th was a lease for the 2 years only and would revert back to the sovereign Dáil government, democratically elected in the 1918 32 county election by the will and wishes of all the sovereign Irish people and ratified on the 21st of the 1st, 1919 in the Mansion House, Dublin and GHQ Vaults Hotel. That's crucial because there you are, the 6th of December 1921.
Okay.
And you see that. And here you are, Article 5, the Free State shall be liable for the service of public debt of the United Kingdom. There you are, the reasons for the Irish Free State was to pay for Article 5, Britain's war debts and war pensions. What are we doing paying for those?
We should not have. No.
This is,
That was illegal.
The people are taking it out of those misfortunate
Yes.
people's pocket
Yes.
and their children's pocket. And they're giving it to where they shouldn't be giving it.
No.
And
There's no legal.
And this is the bit you have to do
Yeah.
and get. Look, and I've read it out to you. The community of known as the British Empire, the peace, order, and good government of Ireland. And didn't we say? How could you say for the last 100 years that Ireland or Northern Ireland or Stormont or Leinster House was for the peace, order, and good
It was
government?
not. Look at
It
the
has been a
bloodshed.
tragedy for Ireland, England, Scotland, and
Wales, yes.
And it goes back to and they've never sorted it out. They've never sorted out Ukraine as the
No,
same situation
no.
again.
It's happening.
What is wrong
Right
with the
on
world?
our doorstep
And what's
of the
wrong with
21st
And
century.
it's all that dishonest.
Yes.
Anyway, I was going to get you to read that letter to the Chief Justice, and I think you should do it.
I think you have great confidence in my readings. But
I have.
anyway.
Everybody says it's lovely, and you
Well,
have
thank you very
great
much indeed.
feeling
Well,
for
this will conclude our programme with Billy Maguire, and a letter that was written to the Honourable Mr. Donald
Can you see
O'Donnell.
that?
I can. Chief Justice, Four Courts, Innskeay, Dublin 7. From Billy Maguire, President of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, Lee House, Kappa, Askeaton, County Limerick, Éire. Dear Chief Justice O'Donnell, the Irish Republican Brotherhood would like to bring the following complaint to your attention and believe that the Census of Population of Ireland form is a fraudulent document as it contains propaganda, lies, deception and fraud. The census forms refers to this is the 26th census to be held since 1841, but does not say that the 1841 census was a 32 county all-Ireland census form or a 26 county provisional Free State census form imposed by Britain on the 6th of December 1921. Articles of Agreement as signed. To partition Ireland as a Free State provisional government for the 26 counties of Ireland and 6 counties of Northern Ireland under Britain to pay for Britain's war debt and war pensions. The Irish Republican Brotherhood was founded and funded the state, the Sovereign Republic of Éire, in 1918, incorporating the 32 county All-Ireland democratic election called by the British government on the 14th of December 1918, and on the 28th of December 1918, IRB Sinn Féin won 73 seats, the Unionist Party won 25 seats, the Nationalist Party won 6 seats, the Independent Party won 1 seat out of a total of 105 seats. This is the mandate that the sovereign people of Éire gave the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the mandate to found the state. The Sovereign Republic of Éire, all 32 counties, all our territory, down the Irish Sea with Britain to our border in the Atlantic Ocean and with the United States of America and Canada. I enclose my original query and reply from the Census Office, the CSO. The census form does say the Irish census counts all the people and households in the country on census night. This is the 26th census to be held since 1841, which is correct, as there have been 25 census in the period of 1841 to 2016 inclusive. The 1841 census was completed on the entire island of Ireland, whereas census periods since the foundation of the state, Free State Provisional Government, have been for the 26 counties of Ireland. I have always signed my census form under the sovereign seal of Dáil Éireann, 12 strings AD 1919, under the mandate of the 1918 32 County All-Ireland democratic election. The Sovereign Constitution source Vaughan's Hotel Papers, by the will and wishes of the sovereign people, citizens of the Sovereign Republic of Éire, as the anointed sovereign of the Sovereign Republic of Éire. I claim all our sovereign territory down the Irish Sea with Britain to our border in the Atlantic Ocean and with the United States of America and Canada, and has always been accepted by the CSO as such. The census form refers to a fine of up to €44,440. Any person who fails or refuses to provide this information, or who knowingly provides false information, may be subject to a fine of up to €44,440. The sovereignty of the nation is inalienable. It is therefore not within the competence of any generation of the people to surrender that sovereignty which each generation holds in trust for the nation. The question of surrender of national independence may not be submitted to an electorate. The Irish Republican Brotherhood would like to know who gave the Free State Provisional Government permission to change the sovereignty of the nation to a 26-county Free State and a provisional Free State government. Signed and sealed on this day, the 21st of June 2022, William James Maguire, President of the Irish and Fenian Republican Brotherhood, the anointed sovereign of the Sovereign Republic of Éire. Enclosures include Census Population of Ireland, Proclamation, Declaration of Independence, Message to the Free Nations of the World, Articles of Agreement, and signed on the 6th of December 1921. The Sovereign Dáil Éireann Government, 21st of the 1st, 1919, and 1918, the 32 All-Ireland Democratic Government elected by the will and wishes of all the sovereign people of Éire. Well done, Billy.
Did you read John?
I did.
John Robinson?
Yes. There we are.
And thank you.
Thank you
And
indeed.
that's it. But we're talking about the Free State again, right?
Yes.
And the 19th of June 1922.
Yes.
That is gone. 100 years was the 21st, the 16th of June 2022. Right?
Yes.
So it is null and void now, all that. And what are they going to do? They have no government.
No.
They have no legitimacy. And we have a sovereign government and they won't recognise it. Did you ever hear anything like it?
It's
these are the
actually...
most highly paid people in the world.
Yes.
Civil servants, judges.
Well, I put it like this to you.
There you are. The 28th of June was the British attacking the four courts.
Correct.
And then you had the 19th of May, that is the Friday the 16th of June then, is when they went into Leinster House,
Yes.
and that's the Free State government. Dáil Éireann never went into Leinster House. That's what
Yes.
they thought.
Okay.
It went into the Mansion House, and Dáil Éireann could be here if we wanted to, and it's been all over the place. But isn't it shocking to think?
Yes,
But
it
this is lies, deception, and fraud to Europe, to America, to Canada, and the rest of the world. You know that and to see Micheál Martin is only the provisional Free State
Taoiseach.
Taoiseach.
Yes.
You know, now we have John Flanagan, who is the Taoiseach. He's the chairman. And we have Dolores Dahil, who is the judge and the Chief Justice of the Sovereign Dáil Éireann Court. I mean, how could they justify the whole thing?
I
That's
don't know.
a 32 county.
It is, yes. It's
look-
a total contradiction
But
in
look,
terms.
when all this is, it has to fall, the whole lot. And we don't want that.
And I'll tell you something, Billy, the way the country is going with the cost of living, and we becoming slaves
We
to
are-
the
you are.
system, I can assure you, this country in Europe may fall by this autumn and winter.
It
It
will,
may.
it has to fall because once what's keeping it going
Yes.
is all those factories and all those
Of course.
businesses for all
Yes.
over, because they want to sell their product into Europe. They couldn't care less about us.
Yes.
They're not interested.
No, we're only useful at an election time.
That's
it.
That is a photograph for you. That's my father again.
Yes.
A cannonball from the siege of Limerick.
Yes. Just show
And
that up.
Ted Kennedy, he got the Kennedys into Northern Ireland.
Yes.
And got him into the room there.
At the time of the negotiations,
Well, long before.
long before it.
This
Look
is
at that.
after.
So
would
this
have
is
been
Billy
well after-
Maguire's
this is the
father
60s, I'd say.
with the
I
late
remember it
Ted
coming.
Kennedy.
And then his brother came over.
Yes.
And JFK and his other brothers. That's the family. They would be Tom now as a young fellow. You see with his dog.
Oh my God.
That's
And you're
in-
carrying on the trade.
I want to, before I go, and oh yes, I want to show you this as well. This is very important. You have to put up this. Just put that up.
I will, of course.
You can read that if you like.
No, I'll leave it. I'll leave people
Just-
read it.
yeah, just
All
read
of
it.
this, of course, is accessible on BillyMcGuire.com.
Yes.
Yeah, and we want to say a very big hello to John Robinson, who does Trojan work in the
Only
background.
for John.
And also-
especially the last few years.
He's marvellous. So approachable.
And you know, poor John. I mean, he's no reason at all.
No.
And the abuse he gets from people.
Of course. Well, you see, when you tell the truth and the facts, you're not a popular person.
Right.
Now, I'll leave that back with you there.
I will
That's up on screen on BillyMcGuire.com.
And you see the sovereign seal, and
Yes,
that's important.
I do indeed.
And I have to show you. This is a very important book.
Yes,
And this is look at the 8 strings IV.
correct.
Michael Collins' own story told to Hayden Talbot. And look, I was at the launch of this book by Enda Kenny. You can see it there.
I'm just looking at it. Oh, yes, yeah, Indy
Now, I
Kenny,
want you to see.
former Taoiseach.
Yeah. Now I want you to, perhaps you might, to verify what we're talking about all along. Just read that little bit there.
I will, of course, yeah.
And
Okay.
that's very important.
Now, this is-
Collins himself saying.
Okay, Michael Collins' own
Now
story.
remember,
Told
he was
to
Minister for
Hayden Talbot.
Finance, he was
Correct.
over the IRB,
Yes.
he was President and all that. And now suddenly on the 6th of December 1921, here you go.
All right, and these are his words recorded. World opinion, as voiced in newspaper editorials and in expressions of private individuals which reached me, condemned me for entering into this pact with De Valera. In the light of what has happened since, the condemnation may appear to be justified. Yet I cannot bring myself to believe that it was not my duty to have done what I did. In my official capacity as chairman of the provisional government, I had no right
Now,
to evade
look, this is the point.
the yes,
He's chairman of the
provisional
that's
government,
the Free
yes,
State government.
correct.
And that is what we've just been discussing. How can historians or anybody else, if you don't know that, how can you write the history?
You can't.
You just airbrush it out.
Well, that's
Pretend
what
you
has
didn't.
been happening. And he goes on to conclude, I had no right to evade the duty I owed the Irish people, and the paramount responsibility resting upon me was to make any sacrifice that might spare the Irish nation from civil war.
There you are.
And the civil war.
Let us start. Give me that book again now, and
Yes.
I'll show you something else, which is
Yes.
which is well, there are. I mean, all those pages are in it. What's that one now today? And it tells you all what to do. There's another little one you could do. Just the top little bit. Just a couple
Okay.
of little bits.
The top
for you.
bare. Yep, I
Just
see it.
that.
Okay. Continuing, convention elected an executive to control the army in future. These men had all taken an oath of allegiance to the Republic and to Dáil Éireann as the government of the Republic. Even the majority of an Dáil had approved of the alleged treaty the army held fast.
There you are.
Right?
And it
That
just
says it all.
But it
His
just
own
shows
words.
you what those people had to do.
Yes.
And nobody mentions it.
No. You see, I think history, Billy, and I'm not a historian by any way, but I've learned so much from you. But I think it has to be revisited now.
Oh, it has.
And
But how is it they
reopened.
didn't do it the other
Well,
day?
I think it has to be done
And it has to be accountable.
because we're just
This is
getting
devil era now.
mistruths and waffle. Now, this is a statement, is it, from De Valera? The trouble with the oath contained in the treaty, he said, is not at all with the regard to swearing to be faithful to the King of England. The trouble is swearing allegiance to the Constitution of the Irish Free State as by law established, which amounts to swearing allegiance to the King. The King, under the treaty terms, actually being, I see what he means now, being the titular head of the Constitution, the very Constitution itself. Now I see it.
You see, these are all, and some. Does
Yes.
anybody ever read that?
No.
And that's look.
Never
Eamon de
refer
Burke,
to it as a
I was at
quote.
the launch of that. Eamon de Burke, he's a great historian. That
Yes.
man. I wanted you to see something else. What did I want you to see? Why didn't I mark it? This is what De Valera. No, I think it's important that just give people a flavour
It is.
of.
But Billy, I'm just running out of battery space here, but I just want to say...
before you go.
Right, okay.
Before you on Choggle, that's I'll
Choggle.
just read it myself.
Yeah,
to make it
do,
clear.
please. Yeah.
Pierce Beasley, they were all the employment of in Vaughan
Yes,
Hotel.
yeah.
And in covering regarding Easter week and him, they're talking about a journalist, a great writer in the Gaelic, and Pierce Beasley, they call it the Choggle, on Choggle, the
Yes,
paper.
yes.
That was, coming on the field, in the hair and all that. That was in Vaughan's Hotel, down in those
yes.
tunnels underneath.
My God.
Before you go, I want you to take a photograph of
will.
the sovereign